Well, hey everybody, welcome back to King's Outdoor Life. Out here in front of the barn today and got a couple of toys here. Well, really one toy and one piece of equipment you got to have to operate this toy. So several things lately have needed a little welding back together. So I said, I'm gonna buy me a welder. So Harbor Freight had this Titanium Flux 125. It's a DC welder, runs on a 110. And so I bought this today. It was $179 for the welder, and then the 1 year replacement and all that. It can't be $200 to get the warranty on this and the helmet. So this is an auto darkening helmet, and it will obviously you can look at your weld, what you're about to weld, and see it, and then as it arcs in 1/25,000th of a second, it dims it so you don't get blinded. So today's video is going to be a little different. I'm going to open this. Got my grinder here. We'll maybe grind on a little bit, maybe try to figure out if we can get this thing running tonight and make a few welds. So we'll see how it goes. So out of the box here we've got instructions, which I will need to read all of that, and then some extra nozzles for the end of the gun there, and then the welder itself. It only weighs 15 pounds. And I read the reviews online and watched a video on it. It seemed pretty simple. You basically have your cord here and the settings, and the manual tells you based on what thickness of steel you're welding, which setting you need to put it on. I'm thinking this will run off my generator, so I'm looking forward to that. Pop the top here. Comes with a backpack strap if you find yourself ever wanting to hike through the woods carrying a welder, I suppose. Anyway, wire feed goes on here, feed it through there and up through the gun here. So I will read the instructions because I definitely need to. Here's where it talks about the different settings. Let me see if I can get this on here. Yeah, it tells you what gauge wire based on what thickness of metal you're welding, and then important thing right here is the 30% use. So you can use it 3 minutes out of 10 minutes, and you got to let it cool off. You don't want to overheat it. So all right, let me finish taking this apart and we'll see how it goes. So fast forward a couple of hours, you can see it's now pitch dark outside. Coming out of the box, the welder would not power on at all. It was completely dead. So my buddy here from my Sunday school class, you'll see him, he's holding the camera right now, you'll see him in a minute. We took the cover off the welder, and one of the wires to the power supply was not connected. So once we connected that, it fired right up, and what we're doing here, we decided to test it on some things that really didn't matter that much. So these are just a couple of cracked welds where the angle iron on the ramps for my trailer were cracked. Right there you see me dancing a little bit because one of those sparks went right down the tongue of my shoe. So hot metal, yes, it burns. But anyway, so we grinded that off, those ramps, and we're just kind of testing the weld here, playing with it. It's all we're doing is playing with it to learn how it's going to work and what it's going to do. John Christian, my friend, is very good at helping me know what settings to set this up at, and that's the important thing, is getting the right heat and wire speed for the type metal you're welding on. And you saw me pull out my little wire cutters there. One thing will happen if it does not get connectivity, it'll feed the wire without arcing. So when you pull the trigger, it puts electricity through that wire and feeds the wire simultaneously. If it does not arc, then it will feed too much wire, and you'll need to stop and clip that wire and start again. The main thing I found was the reason it wasn't getting an arc is because of the rust. This is a rusty old trailer, so everything we tried to weld, we had to grind it first. But if I tried to start my weld where it was rusty, it didn't work. I haven't welded in 25 years. And I had hair back then, and this was a lot of fun, a lot better than that stick welder I welded with 25 years ago. Very simple and easy to use. So what we're doing here is the trailer tongue jack has broken, and we grinded off a spot there to put a new one,
You need
and John Christian tacked it on there for me, and then now I'm about to try to weld it on.
Alright. Fire in the hole.
So you can hear the fan blowing on that welder. That's to keep it cool, obviously. After you stop welding, it will continue to spin, cool it off, and also after you power it off, that fan will continue to spin to cool it off. There's also a sensor that if you overheat it, the sensor will go off and it'll stop welding, basically preventing it from burning itself up. So this is going pretty well here. I'm not a good welder, never was a good welder, but I was very, very pleased at how easy this welder was to weld with, and also really the quality of the weld with the material we're working with here. So several up and downs of starts and stops for me here because again, brand new to this or haven't done any welding in 25 years. I had to do a lot of stopping and starting. But all in all, I'm very pleased so far with how this went. Well, the trailer jack weld went pretty well, and did I mention I'm too fat and old to be rolling around on the concrete floor to weld upside down? Well, I am. Anyway, after finishing that, we moved here to a little crack in the weld where the two pieces of angle iron meet in the corner of the trailer. So we grinded that off, and I'm going to weld this here now. One problem you can see, recurrent problem I had, is the line would feed out and would not arc, and I'd have to trim that off. But I think it's a common problem. Just keep a set of side cutters with you at all times and be able to nip that off when it does that. So turned out pretty good. All in all, again, very pleased with the weld. Once we got the weld that finished there on the corner, we moved on to grinding off the old trailer jack since it's not of any use anymore. So I cut the footage down dramatically and run it on 4x. Maybe I need to turn it up to 8 times the speed here. But anyway, I deleted a bunch of the footage here because nobody wants to see me sit there and grind on this forever and beat on it with a hammer. But in the long run, we did get it off. So I guess I'll say in summary on the welder, for a hobby welder like me, or somebody just needs a welder once a quarter, once every few months when something breaks, I think it's going to do the trick. So super pleased with it so far. I've got one more project on the bush hog, and we'll get a video of that and follow up with how it goes. Need a boat anchor?